Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of AFW2's Blue and Beyond podcast.
Today we have Warrior Adam Boccher, who sat down with the Empowerment and Transition Program Manager, Britt.
Let's listen in and see what they have to say.
So this is actually kind of cool, and I really appreciate your time, Mr. Britt, Mr. Bradley Britt. You know, I know having met you several years ago through the ambassador program and all the fun times driving around to the different opportunities that AFW2 provided me to develop and present, you know, my testimony. There was some awesome conversations, and then out of a professional relationship built a personal relationship, and one that I'm so grateful and appreciative to maintain and have with you. So thank you for this opportunity. I thought it'd be kind of different for maybe a warrior that's still active in the AFW2 program to ask questions to a program manager about a program that I haven't attended yet. And maybe I'll explain to you in a minute why I haven't attended. Definitely not because of you, though. So wipe that one. We can wipe that one. You know, and really, you know, it has a lot to do with my experience that I had with TAPS when I separated. But AFW2 has, I mean, every single program within AFW2 is awesome. So why I wouldn't, you know, think that I could expect anything less from the EIT program. But I guess it would be important because this is going to go out to folks that maybe potentially don't know what EIT is or haven't had the pleasure of experiencing the presence of Mr. B-Rad Bradley Britt. Do you mind just giving a brief intro of like who you are, what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I'm going to play that on a loop in the background just to pep myself up every morning. My name is Brad Britt. You know, I'm an Air Force veteran. I did 8.5 years in the military. I got injured. I ended up leaving earlier than I thought I would be. So I am a wounded warrior myself. I don't, you know, like probably a lot of people, I don't like to refer to myself as that because, you know, there's always someone worse off. But I mean, it's the matter of fact, right? So these programs are there to help wounded, ill, and injured. When I got out of the military, I wanted to continue serving, and I wanted to work, right? I wanted a job. So I was very fortunate through networking, through someone who was helping me, Nikki Coombs, to get a position working in a RCC role for SOCOM Care Coalition. From there, I ended up coming over to the Air Force Wounded Warrior program, where I was fortunate enough to be in the ambassador program, where I met you. And now I work over in the Empowerment and Transition program. The Empowerment and Transition program, you know, we're here for the wounded, ill, and injured and their families, their caregivers, to try to help them with their military transition. There's a lot going on. You're not having that typical, I'm retiring at 20 years or I'm planning on getting out at 6 and going to school. Like, it's a different kind of transition, right? So it's stressful. There's a lot going on where you're going through a lot of those programs. So we're here to, you know, tailor our efforts towards helping those individuals because it's a different challenge, right? So, you know, we tackle everything from, you know, we have employment, education, entrepreneurship, and volunteering. You know, those are kind of our 4 main lines of effort. You know, obviously, education and employment are our biggest because people want jobs, right?
Right.
When I was getting out of the military, I was scared to death. You know, I didn't really know what to do. I was a highly trained airman. I know I had a lot of skills, but I'm like, I didn't know how I was going to transfer them and what I was going to do. And I applied for a lot of jobs online, and they went down some kind of rabbit hole or never seen again, right?
Yes.
But you know, these kind of programs are here, and you don't know what you don't know. And the AFW2, that's what we do. I have a great team, you know, EIT coordinators who work, you know, one-on-one with, you know, warriors, the veterans, and the caregivers to try to help them develop a path and a goal. Because it's okay not to have a plan. You know, let's narrow in that direction, and then we'll develop that plan as we go along. But the most important part, I think, is reaching out for help. You know, a lot of us, I won't say we're stubborn, but I think that's, you know, I'll say resilient,
Right.
to be nice. But, you know, we think we know a lot, and we think, you know, well, someone's just going to offer me a job because I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
And that's not what's going to happen. So, I mean, you know, we're here to really help you, and I can go into more about the programs, more about what we do, if you want to get into that. But that's kind of a brief overview of what we do over in the EIT program. And you know, I can't give enough credit to our EIT coordinators who are really, you know, the line of effort to really help our warriors. I fortunately just have the privilege of working with them and developing the best program we can.
That's so, I mean, you hit on something that, I can relate to. And, I'm in again, grateful to be a part of AFW2's RAMP, the Recovering Airman Mentorship Program. And, having been a part of that program, I get a chance to talk to, and even outside of the AFW2's mentorship program, I mean, there are warriors within the program that I'm just close friends with now. And a commonality when you're, and you hit on it, when you're going through the transition phase. um, when I was active duty, I knew when my paychecks were coming. I knew what my medical, I knew what that side picture looked like for me and my family. I knew where I could go to get medical. I knew how that off base procedure went. Those were solid. When you're going through that transition phase, that is scary. Like, where and when is my next paycheck coming? And if you're single, it's scary. If you're single, where and when's my next paycheck coming? That another element of stress or anxiety is if you're married, right? Because potentially, you're talking about a family unit now, married with children, potentially with exceptional family member needs program enrollees. I mean, it just builds and builds and builds. And when I was going through the transition period, man, I was scared to death. That was one of the things I was most concerned about. And going through the TAPS process, which is mandatory, I think across the DoD. I don't want to misspeak there, but I believe it's DoD wide. A form of that is in place. Well-intended uh, facilitators that were present, but I'll be straight up with you. Even Brittany, my wife, she attended the first day, and that was the last day she attended, because it just was not, it we didn't get anything out of it. And so that was my hesitancy in signing up for EIT in the beginning when I initially rolled into AFW2, because I was like, man, I don't want to sit through another week-long course of somebody trying to tell me how to write a resume, because there's about as many resume examples on the internet as there are sonic flavor combinations, and which is the right one? Do you do a 1-page? Do you do a 2-page? What do you write a resume for? Who's going to give you the feedback? And it's just so confusing. That was just one concern I had. Interviews, that was another concern I had, and research will support that is a top concern among individuals who are seeking employment. That interview process, sitting down with an employer and being the person in the chair versus being the airman in the uniform. You have all that job knowledge and skills and skill set, and you're confident in what you're doing, hopefully. But now you're the person in the hot seat, and I found myself doing the Ricky Bobby, like, what do I do with my hands? Just hold them down to your side, Adam, like, all those things, man. And like, that's what was stressing me out. And I found myself sitting in that TAPS class going like, dude, what am I doing here, man? Like,
Yeah, and here's how I look at that. I went through TAPS, my wife went through TAPS, and it was two kind of different experiences, right? But also my wife was in a different situation because she knew she was getting out. We had a child, and I want her to take care. We made the agreement that she was going to take care of our son. So like, it was a different approach. I went through it at a army base, a large army base.
Okay.
So I was the only airman in the TAPS class. But, TAPS is there, and I think, it's always improving, always getting better, and it's great information. But, we're not trying to, our empowerment and transition program is not trying to replace TAPS. It's not trying to, if you come to EIT, you can't check that box and say, hey, I don't have to go through TAP. No, you should go through TAP as much as you can, right? Because there is some very valuable information there. But for us, we focus on wounded, ill, and injured. Like instead of the funnel being this big to everybody that they're trying to pass their information to, the topics they're trying to cover, we're narrowing that thing way down.
Okay.
So we can give that, detailed information, work with partners who are addressing topics for wounded, ill, and injured. So it makes a difference because, like I said, a lot of times, you can sign up to go through one of our events or sign up to get our one-on-one care with our EIT coordinators, and it's one-on-one. And it's
So
as long as you want it.
So when you say one-on-one, so I guess like one of my first questions that I found that maybe this is where the difference is, and hopefully like you can clear this up for me maybe, is when I went through TAPS, there's a portion about interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And interview skills, man, I would love, to me, learning continues always. I feel like you can never stop learning enough, and there's always a new skill to learn. So interviewing, like, man, I definitely would benefit from learning.
Yeah.
But sitting in an open class with one facilitator and 2 or 3 students, maybe 4 students huddled in a small little group, interviewing each other, it's like, that's not really productive. So like, I mean, when you say like one-on-one, like what,
okay,
like how,
yeah, let me jump right into that. I mean,
okay.
and here's the example. Like I'm saying, like we're able to, I'm like, hey, Adam, you're in an AFW2 program. We want to help you. And there's all kinds of programs out there. There's so many resources. It's kind of nice to have some people who are like, hey, these are some I would recommend for you. Right. Right out the gate, you're talking about, the interview thing. And just a quick story. My first, job interview that I actually got for a position when I was transitioning out of the military, I was super nervous. I was at the point where I'm like, okay, I'll take anything for any amount of money. Right. And I got the position, and it came to, hey, how much are you expecting for this position? And I'm sitting there going, man, I don't want to say too much and lose this.
That's wild. That's number 3
right
on my list.
And then I said the number, and then she's like, no, we're gonna give you 10,000 more than that. And so I undercut myself by 10 grand right away.
Okay.
And so just imagine, I probably could have went a little bit higher. Okay. So I mean, but I didn't know. Right. I just wasn't prepared. Like, and when I was going through the programs, coming out of the military, I was dealing with so many other things. I had medical appointments and everything like that.
Right.
We work with, Deloitte, and their team does a 2-day, virtual employment boot camp with us right now. Right now it's virtual, right? But when in the future, it'll be in person again.
Right.
And in partnership with the Wounded Warrior Project, when we join their class, and they let us have a few slots, which is great. I would send you to that. They help you to work on your resume, and it's what's working now. And it's coming from people. It's not from me. Like, I'm telling you what to put on your resume. I'm not hiring you. Okay. Right. We're having people who are, in organizations and companies that are actually actively hiring veterans and being like, hey, this is what we're working on. These are the skills you have that you want to highlight at this time. Okay. And they go over your transferable skills. It's a 2-day thing, and they kind of work you up for that first day for the second day, which is, mock interviews with actual, they have some people who are in HR, some recruiters who are actually really? Interviewing you. And the point is, I saw a thing that said, be strong enough to suck at something new, or it was something like that. Right.
Right.
But that's kind of really what it is. Like, you have to be willing to practice, and practicing with somebody who actually can give you feedback, not practicing with somebody who's going to be like, yeah, I think that was good. But practicing,
right, because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Right. Practicing with somebody and be like, hey, Adam, this is what you're really, really good at. You have all these skills. I can see your resume. And by talking with you, I know you have, good communication skills. You got, attention to detail. here's how I would transfer that. Here's how I would communicate that better to a future employer. And there's a lot that comes with that, because think about the confidence you gain, not by just doing really well, but by knowing like, okay, this is what I honestly have to work on, and our team can do that as well. EIT coordinators can walk through the questions with you, walk through, hey, where are you having issues? There are other programs out there as well. I mean, it's not just limited to that, but we can help you identify those and look for those. There's a lot of opportunities out there for programs like that. That's where I would start to address that issue. The other thing that they cover, and I've sat through a lot of the Deloitte virtual employment boot camps, is the salary negotiation. And I wish I would have sat through that. That's where I'm closing that loop. I wish I would have sat through that, because I mean, the lady, it was like, it kind of reminded me of, oh, sweetheart. You know what I mean? Like one of those moments, or she's like, bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
She's
yeah,
like,
and you're like,
it's I'm like, I knew I blew it there, but at that point I'd already gave in. But that's kind of stuff they go over, and it's important because you don't think about that.
You don't, because as a military member, you get, hopefully, there's the cost of living allowance adjustment, and hopefully each year there's some sort of pay raise or 1 point something or point something. And we don't ask for that. So this is something like I was thinking about, and I was talking with my wife about. I'm like, as a military member on active duty, our pay raises come through promotions, and our pay raises come through those small adjustments, but you know what you're getting. I never walked into Chief Perkins' office and was like, hey, I want to negotiate. Yeah, how can we negotiate? I think
that didn't happen.
Boost that. Like, how do you do? I wouldn't even know how to have that conversation.
And they go over that, and it's obviously it comes down to a lot. There's a consistent theme: leaning ahead, doing your research, and being able to understand that there is no, like, as much as we can do for you as support, as much as the programs that are out there, if you're not willing to lean forward and put in the effort, you're going to get what you put in. Because I cannot get a job for you. I cannot go to a job interview for you. I can't write your essays for you for that university.
Right.
But I can get, I can make that connection for you to someone who can really help you. You can learn about service to school programs like that. You can learn about, mentorship programs, which is another thing that I really think we don't think about, but it's huge. You can go to American Corporate Partners, Betterati, these mentorship platforms and programs where you can reach out to somebody who's like, well, I want to work in tech. I want to work for this organization. You can reach out, search, and see if they have them. I mean, and they're there. They want to help you, right? If they're involved in these kind of programs, they want to see you succeed. So mentorship is another thing we found, and networking. I kind of went off a little bit there, but I think can pull it back in.
Yeah, no, I just think, when I enrolled initially in AFW2, and this is not like a competition between the different resiliency options available to, warriors, caregivers, and their families when you first come on to the program. I know adaptive sports is huge. That's one of like the big, one of the popular programs, because it works on team building, it's encouraging, uplifting, supportive. It gets you back into something enjoyable that you love and you care about. And that was awesome. That's something I did when I attended my first care event. But the very top of my mind, I know I've said it already, was, man, like, what am I going to do? Because when I was going through the med board, and almost everybody I've talked to worries about what are the percentage ratings, because you don't know as you're going through the process. And that very well can dictate, man, like, how quick do you have to get a job? And I've never had to formally interview, and I've never had to formally, provide a resume outside of the tongue and quill, which tells me exactly what I got to do. And then, and then depending on the background and skill set, whether you have those technical skills or the, maybe the formal education, which could, depending on what you're going into, could equally, pay raise or negotiating for your salary. I mean, it could be on par depending on what you're looking at. How do you even talk about those things? And like, man, that was like on the top of my mind. How am I going to pay my bills? Where am I going to get medical for my family? And for me, I'm married with children and a little one with extensive medical needs, pre-existing conditions. And I'm thinking to myself, worst case scenario. And I can only imagine how much additional anxiety, stress that would pour on top of a person who's enrolled in our program. If they're enrolled in our program, the chances are they're already dealing with a degree of anxiety or depression or PTSD or something associated with their illness or injury. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah. And I mean, just, it's this is the way I look at it. I'm going to touch on first the adaptive sports thing. Think about where you would be if you wouldn't have done that.
very true.
And so like when people are like, well, there's these programs and I don't, which one should I do? You should try to do them all. There's a reason for it. And I mean, look at what they can do for you. A lot of times when you're wounded, ill, and injured, you don't want to do a whole lot.
Right.
Get up and doing sports and, being able to compete again can do a lot for you. Like it's nice to be able to do something that you maybe were told like, okay, well, you probably won't do this again, but find something new that you can do and have a passion for it. And then doing it with other people and seeing what other people can do who might have similar injuries to you, right?
Right.
And then think about how the impact that has on your family. Okay, so you're building confidence there, you're getting healthier there. Now you look at, giving back with the mentorship program, right? You go into ramp and now you're like, okay, I made it here, I'm going to help somebody else. Then you go to ambassador and you reach out and, you're trying to help other people through that way to get them into here and to make sure they get the assistance they need, and it goes on and on with those programs. The way I look at us, if you don't know what empowerment and transition is, it's hard to go into it, and like you said, maybe the perception is, well, I don't want someone else to send me an email saying, hey, here's a PDF on how all the boxes you need to check to get a job,
right.
Or here's how you need to do this, to do that. That's really not what we do. I mean, you are going to get emails from us. You're going to get a lot of emails from us because we're going to be trying to send you job fairs, education opportunities, employment opportunities, because guess what? That's what we're trying to do for you. We're also going to try to help you build that network by encouraging you to reach out to, mentors and things like that and discuss all those fears and hesitations you have, because you're not alone. It's a scary time.
It is.
And I still remember that. Yes. I mean, like, and you talk about your family and you talk about the healthcare and you talk about all those things that, kind of stack up into that stress sandwich, right? Like, I mean, it's nice to have someone there to split that with. Yeah. And that's kind of, that's kind of who we can be. It's nice, along with our RCCs and non-meds who do just the most important job, I think, in our mission, right? The awesome non-medical care managers, the RCCs, recovery care coordinators, who are there making sure you get the care you need, access to what you need. We're here in support to try to give you that access to employment, education, transition, and you don't know what you don't know. So I'd say if you're having those kind of thoughts, which everybody's going to have,
right?
And the biggest thing is sometimes people are afraid to admit, like, I don't have a plan. And it takes a lot of courage to reach out to somebody you don't know, enroll, self-refer yourself to the empowerment and transition program, and be like, I'm a 36-year-old master sergeant who's getting medically retired. I don't know what I want to be.
I got nothing.
And I don't know. Yeah. And that's a great, because you know what you did? You reached out, you leaned forward, and you can tell who's going to be successful, because there are people who want to hire veterans out there. There are organizations, there are schools that want to get you in. The university I'm attending, I never thought I'd be able to get into it. But I mean, like, they looked at, think about your resume. Think about everything that you've done over your career and how really impressive it is. Just because we think it's every day, just this is what I do every day. People outside of that see all those tangible skills and what you do and how outstanding it really is. So sometimes you just need that direction, and that's what our team provides. And we have people who really care. And guess what? We're persistent. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that matters. Sometimes it takes reaching out to a warrior 6 or 7 times because they're moving, they're trying to get their healthcare set up, they're trying to get their life figured out. But by that seventh time, when you reach out to them, we had a warrior who one of our empowerment 10 coordinators was working with. We got him into one of these courses. He went for a job interview. He said he went in for like a lower level general position, and he walked out with like a supervisory position because they were so impressed with how he interviewed. And he had
Nice.
just got done with the workshop and the virtual employment boot camp. I mean, like these skills matter. It's like practicing for a test. You know what I mean? Like it's repetition. It's having someone behind you, and that's what we provide.
Awesome.
I'm passionate about it because I think if you have these tools to warriors, it can prevent a lot of other things.
Yes.
Because if you're working, you have a purpose, you're supporting your family, that's a good trajectory for a family, for a warrior. So I'm pretty passionate about it. I enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy the team that I work with because they get it done every day. I mean, they realistically just make me look amazing. And honestly, it's them who are there every day working with the warriors, taking the calls, sending the emails, making those connections.
So can I ask you something, that again, like you touched on it, and it was applicable to my family. And so I think it might be at least applicable to a few other families that are part of the AFW2 program, or, inevitably in the future, there'll be families that come through. So Brittany only stayed for the first day. I know you mentioned your spouse went through her own. What does EIT do or offer for the spouses or caregivers? What's in it for them? Like what's
in it for them besides getting to talk to some awesome teammates?
Besides hanging out with B-Rad.
Well, no, I mean, and I'm really happy you brought that up because
And the reason why I bring it up, man, is just because like the caregivers are just so critical in all of this, and
I'm happy you brought it up because they can be in the EIT program. If you're a
like
caregiver,
as an enrollee,
the only thing that as like we help them, like it'd be separate than helping you. Like if she wants to be if the only thing that we have is if they need to be enrolled in the AFW2 caregiver program first.
Okay.
And the reason behind that is because if we have a caregiver coming to us for employment, information, guidance, and stuff like that, I can guarantee they would benefit from being in the caregiver program. Sure. And so that's the reason we kind of want that to be the flow of operations, right? You are enrolled in AFW2 as a caregiver, and then you can use the link and self-refer yourself, and we're helping you
with all the same stuff that you would give or provide for me.
And unfortunately, right now, only like 3% of our total population we're serving as caregivers, and this is a program that is out there for our caregivers as well. I just talked to a great organization who's working to provide access to free training, on certain platforms that are remote. So let's say you are a caregiver, a military spouse, and your warrior is able to return to duty.
Right.
Okay. But now you're PCSing, you were stationed, let's say you it was a pretty serious injury and they were down here in Texas, but now you're going to go up to, Hill Air Force Base.
Right.
You have this skill that you can take with you, that you can work remote. Like these are the opportunities we have for caregivers. And maybe it's, we're not doing a good enough job marketing it, but yeah, we're here for them. As long as they're enrolled in the AFW2 program, they can attend our events. They can enroll to attend AFW2 virtual events, come for the week. The information, even if you sit back and you hear it, like, okay, that's great. And think about some of our caregivers, some of our military spouses. We have some warriors who can't work.
Right.
They just can't work. And you know what? 100% VA, I've heard they're like, well, I have 100% VA, I'm going to be fine. Your wife and your 4 kids aren't.
Right.
That's not going to pay the bills, right? So this is here for them so they can get that employment, get those skills they need. And plus it's, they're people who really deserve the opportunities. Yeah, and right. So we are 100%. That's one thing that I'm really happy that we do. I'm happy that you asked.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Because they can enroll, and it's separate. It's not, you're not just a caregiver. We're paying attention to you and trying to give you the resources you need. Not for Adam, for you. So we're here 100% for them as well.
That's awesome. That's really cool, because that's the difference between, again, I don't want to keep comparing EIT to TAPS, but like, Brittany was able to sit through TAPS with me, but it wouldn't have been, a facilitator or, an instructor providing her with extra material or things like that. So that's pretty awesome that like she would have that opportunity.
It comes back to, that funnel. I mean, we're serving a much smaller audience, a much smaller population, and so we're allowed to do things like that. And so, I don't really like compare our programs because I think the missions are very different.
Right.
And I think there's a lot that they offer that's really great and that's necessary. But we're just very fortunate that we have the resources and the capabilities to offer that to our caregivers. And even if they want to come in and sit and just see what it's about, I mean, I really enjoy when we have caregivers who come and sit through it. And sometimes what you'll do is you have, especially with our virtual, you have the warrior sit through it, and then the spouse kind of pokes their head in. And then and so they can come. So it is really just great information. And a lot of the programs that are out there, like American Corporate Partners with mentoring, they have a military spouse and military female veteran programs, women's programs that sometimes are for them. So it's great stuff.
Right. No, that's awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to see you again. Yeah, because I haven't seen you in a while. But to be able to talk about this, because in without going into detail, part of my career involved individuals who were their anxiety, stress, had other things going on in their lives, and transition was in looking like the path. And part of that added pressure of where's my next paycheck, where's my next medical insurance, man, I got so many bills and debt collectors and all that stuff. I mean, the amount of stress that comes from that was so much in certain circumstances that it really backed people into corners that they felt like they had little to no options. And for me, I'm real passionate about suicide awareness and prevention, and I believe in my heart that EIT and the core of what your program does, just both having talked to other warriors, having spoken to you, but offline, and also learning here today, can really help with that. Because what I got, or I still left that particular week when I went through the transitioning program with just as much of anxiety, stress, and fear about, man, where's my next paycheck? Where's my insurance? How am I going to care for my family? And the lives of our airmen matter, and programs like AFW2 and specifically EIT and adaptive sports and ramp and ambassador all play a critical role. And I wanted to learn more, only because I've been personally hesitant about, am I going to get the group, and I shouldn't say that, because I know AFW2 goes big and all that it does, but that's really why I was hoping to sit down with you today. And I'm grateful for your time, because I just personally, don't want to see any more of our airmen and families hurting from a decision that can't be undone.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, going through that process, and like I said, you remember who was there. And I mean, a lot of times the view that we have of ourselves at the time of going through that, loss of tribe, loss of, identity, it's tough, but a lot of times we're doing it to ourselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I went through, and I remember thinking, well, what do people I work with think of think of me because I'm getting out, and I can't do the job anymore because I got hurt. And then I realize, well, I'm hurt. How do I think of other people when they're injured or they can't do their job anymore? They can't do it.
Right.
I don't think any less of them. But the other part is, you have some people here who really do care about you, and there are people who care about you. There are people who want to help you. That's why these programs are here. But the important thing is getting these programs in front of the individuals, getting these programs in front of their caregivers, military spouses, in front of their leadership, and in front of anybody who can try to guide them in the right direction. To just know, like, hey, you're leaving one team, you're still part of that team, but now you have some new players with you, right? And that's kind of how we are. We're here to help you, set you up, get you on that right path. And I mean, it's empowering to know that you can talk to somebody. It was empowering for me to know when I was going through the transition, I had someone I could talk to besides my wife about some of the stuff I was worrying about. Because the last thing I want to do is make them panic. Because the stress ball just gets bigger because you're like, well, because then you're like, well, I wasn't worried about that till I am now.
Thanks.
But yeah, so you have someone, between the whole, care continuum, like starting with the RCC all the way down through like what we do over here. I mean, you have a team that's behind you. I mean, and if you're watching this video this long into it, utilize it. Because
for sure.
So, and then if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me and talk to me. But I mean, like, there's programs out there. Adam, I appreciate what you're doing, the information you're sharing, and the time you took to sit down with me. It was great to see you too. I mean, and the one thing is, what do you want to ask me that you haven't? I told you I'd give you honest answers. So.
Awesome. I was curious about your hair care routine, and specifically the products that you use to keep such what I would consider like GQ magazine ready hair.
Well, I mean, it's really I alternate because I don't want to get you. I like to keep it on its toes, right?
Okay.
So sometimes it's a paste, sometimes it's more like a clay, right?
Okay.
I don't really hairspray. I stay away from. I don't like the foam stuff either because by the time you get up here, it falls down.
It does.
But I mean, also it's important to keep the eyebrows in check and the beard at a good length because the hair knows. So you don't want to let these things go without paying attention to that too. But it also comes down to a really good conditioner and and making sure that you kind of alternate that as well. Don't let it keep it on its toes.
Keep it on its toes. You're not conditioning eyebrows though, are you?
No.
Okay.
These things are my backup plan. If I ever lose hair, I'm just going to comb them back because there's so much there.
I was just curious, man. I need to. So that's what I need to do then, is switch up my hair care product game.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to like try something that's in an aisle that's not for you. Maybe go over to where your wife's shopping and say, hey, this looks really good.
For my wife.
This has got green tea something in it. Give it a shot.
Sounds good.
I'm happy to help any way I can.
Well, I really appreciate that because honestly, I mean, I need a little variety in my life, and I go to what I know because it's comforting.
For the full tutorial, you have to go to my YouTube channel.
Okay? That's what I'm gonna do next.
All right. Hey, well, I really appreciate it. I mean, if you got anything else for me, or I'd like to kind of flash, our website.
Yeah.
But let's do that, and just so people can kind of see where to go, where to learn more, and really understand. If you have any questions, this was not one of my better hair days. But I mean, you can come here, woundedwarrior.af.mil, and learn more about the program. You can refer yourself going right here. But I mean, that's where you can get some more information. But again, thanks for having me as a guest. Thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate it. I like getting this message out there, and it was good seeing you.
It was good seeing you too. Yeah, I think it's so important. So thank you. It's good seeing you. Hopefully again in person soon.
All right.
So care. What am I supposed to do now? Do I hit the little leave button?
No. We'll just we'll have a really awkward, like, where we'll say bye. like, and you can say, thanks for coming, Brad, and I'll say, hey, I hope well to you, and she can edit it, or he can edit it, and then we just kind of stare at each other for a minute, and then we can talk after that, and then I'll just stop recording.
Thank you again. I really appreciate the this opportunity from AFW2 and from you, Mr. Britt, explain EIT specifically to me in more detail, and just how critical it is to the continuing of care, I'm saying it wrong. The continuation of care, care continuum.
That sounds good.
No, I just butchered that.
So,
Mr. Britt, I was going to do it again.
I'm sorry. It's just good to see. It's just good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Car ride,
oh man, hopefully there's not like a blooper reel.
Oh, no. They get a lot. They get to. You should. This is nothing.
This is when I do some of the stuff for. Oh my gosh, the YouTube. Like Brittany just told me, why do you start and stop? Just let it record and then just collect yourself and then start again. I'm like,
I think you're a little too hard on yourself as well.
I'm like, good idea. And then I go back. I'm like,
what I'll do is I'll save this. I'll send it to you as it is. But I'm going to send it to you and them. So let's just break real quick. And then you do your outro and then they can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Britt, so much, and AFW2 for this opportunity to talk more about EIT and its critical role in the transition phase for both not just the warrior, but for the caregivers, which is amazing. Not only can a caregiver participate, but they can also, receive the same level of service that a warrior can, which is something I did not know it was possible. So that's pretty awesome, and that would definitely lower my level of anxiety and stress when it comes to navigating the resumes, the interviews. How do you talk about and negotiate your salary, what are you worth in the civilian sector? Because those are all things that are new. That I didn't have to worry about.
It was my pleasure, Adam. Thank you for what you do as an ambassador and for your service. And I hope that you and your family are well. If you ever have any other questions or you come across anybody who has any questions for us, you know where to send them.
I do.
Other than that, I look forward to speaking in the future.
That's it, folks. That's all we've got for you this month. Don't forget to catch us every second Tuesday of the month for new episodes of AFW2's Blue and Beyond podcast. We'll see you next month.